fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome to Simspeed TV as the Ozicar F4 Series returns for Season 2. It's round 1 from Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. These F4 cars have been amazing in Aussie car competition, slipstreaming and racing very closely. Season 1 went all the way down to the line in a three-way championship tussle. Some big names making appearances along the way. What will Season 2 bring us? We're here to find out live. David Haynes with Jason Fewens, Jay Kennedy producing. Jason, we're on the full Grand Prix circuit. It's high speeds for these F4 cars.
Yeah, this circuit's got a great heritage history, particularly with open-wheel Formula vehicles, and that's very well suited to the style that we'll probably see here tonight with these Formula 4s. Again, a really, really big field tonight, some names we haven't seen before, so there'll be some drivers there to mix things up and really shake up the results.
Here's the track. Hello to Papa Stroll and the Aston Martin F1 team at top of frame, but the racetrack, 5.9 kilometers. It's great. It's no Mount Panorama Bathurst. It's about 300 meters short of that, but it's got some really long straights and some high-speed corners. The old pit straight, Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, then of course Hanger Straight, the new pit straight, aka Hamilton Straight, the Wellington Straight. All of that is going to conspire in these F4 cars to slipstream them super close in some pack racing in tonight's 2 races. These are those 2 races, both of them 20 minutes, both of them with a compulsory pit stop for a 4-tyre change. So around a big lap like this, there's only a couple set strategy plays that are feasible, I guess.
Yes, it's really going to mix things up for round number 1 here tonight for season number 2. So the drivers will have to play to their strengths, and if they're going to get caught up into a little battle, pit strategy really could play a factor in the end result tonight.
Qualifying's locked in for race 1, which then carries its grid over into race 2. The front row, Thomas Hinds, Ewan Baker, James Chastanoff, Ali Imran Kariuddin, Ryan Bell, Braden Martin as our first 3 rows. Julian Kellenbusink, I swear I read it as Kleinbusink before, but Brody Shepherd, Jared Thomas, Scott Harvey, Liam Banks, Adrian Duke to 12th on the grid. And then Darren Toon, Brodie Tressida, Luke Quist, Sean McKenzie, Darren Shannon, Dennis Hancock, many Aussie car familiar names returning for Season 2 of the F4 Championship.
Rolling over the page, off row number 10, Nathan Burney, a long-time Aussie car veteran, alongside Matthew Harriott tonight. Peter Wilkinson making a return to the series on row 11 with Ben Wheeler to his right. Leon Williams and Warren Henry make up row number 12. Ira Felberg and Roy Clark towards the back of the field in row 13. Peter Bowling, the last of our drivers to set a qualifying time, and 2 drivers to elect to start from the back is Sean Doyle and John Snell.
10 laps, they're gridding up, they're ready to go and kick this off. Just a couple more drivers yet to see in the grid formation. But your pole sitter ready for what will be the outside of the very fast turns 1 and 2 here. Big sweeping corners then into the braking zone and the tight hairpins that follow. You drive out of there important onto the long Wellington Straight. The revs rise in these turbocharged 4 cylinders. The lights go out And who gets a good jump? Tall first gear can be tough to judge, but James Chastano from the second row, amazing start, looking to split the gap, looking to split it down the middle. 3 wide for the first lap of the first race of this season of Ozicar, but it's the pole sitter Thomas Hinz who carries his speed around the outside of turn 1, through turn 2, and into turn 3 here, able to place himself well. 3 wide a bit further back with tyre lockups and smoke in the air, but it's a modern Grand Prix track. There's plenty of room and real estate for everyone, but it almost looks like teammates together there as Julian Kleinbusink is sideways and gets collected.
Yeah, a little bit of carnage. A few drivers trying to get the feel again. It's been a couple of weeks since the Formula 4 Ozicar Series wrapped up. It was before Christmas, so it's been a good break. And these drivers have to get themselves back in the right frame of mind. But it looks like the majority of the field's made their way through the tricky first sector of lap number 1. So pretty well single file through most of the field at the moment, and the drivers really sort themselves out.
Here they go onto the old pit straight. Looking at some of the middle pack there, Nathan Verney, Brody Tressiter, Dennis Hancock, some drivers who could move forward in this opening race number 1. Someone's got damage or a slowdown dropping back. Tough to pass through here. In fact, the aero hinders you a little more than it helps you through this famous section of corners, but a good exit can set you up to pass into Stowe, and that's what Ewan Baker has gotten. He's in third, he's looking for second, but it all depends which way Thomas Hinz goes, who gets the slipstream off of Hinzy.
Yeah, James Chastanoff sitting there in the distinctly blue and yellow, sitting in second under all sorts of pressure. Looks like Ewan Baker's dives down the inside, gets the move done very, very early in the season on lap number 1 of 10 tonight. So Chastanoff not making any unnecessary risks. On saying that, there's a big dive under brakes, and they go 2 by 2 side by side in through the last sector, giving Thomas Hinz a bit of an opportunity just to break away that gap, just out to 1 second now. So a little bit of side by side action at the end of lap number 1. As we see a heap of drivers dive into the pits.
Memories of Aussie car Skip Barber, a lot of drivers opting to pit early and take that tyre change as early as possible. And even got someone starting from the pit lane. There was Ryan Bell just joining the field, but unfortunately a lap down. Hinz at the lead, looking to find a second to break the slipstream to the pack behind Chastanoff, Baker. Braden Martin up into 4th from Jared Thomas and Ali Imran Karudin.
Yeah, so Ryan Bell just joining in there. He actually was qualified P5, so there was one missing on the grid as the lights went green. So mechanical issues there, unfortunately able to make the grid. So he's got his work cut out for him in a short 9 or 10 lap sprint race. He'll be doing his best just simply to stay on the back of this pack, and hopefully play circumstances will play out. He might be able to pick up a few due to other people's misfortune.
Second and third have got to be careful about how they play this. They've still got Hinz on the hook, but if they go side by side through cops, it's going to cost them both too much speed and momentum and let Thomas Hinz start to walk away with this race. Chastity still in second there. Changes of direction. And then another. And then another. Similar again onto that Wellington straight. You carry a lot of speed on to the straight. The slipstream already powerful, and then continues underneath the bridge past the Porsche Experience Centre towards Stowe Corner. No defence from Chastity.
Pretty much a carbon copy replica of what happened last lap in lap number 1. So Baker, they're getting a really good run out of the Magus Beckett's complex, and then what used to be down Hanger Straight. So Chastanoff this time just opting for the outside, happy to sit in third as we see
Hinz
another
gets from the lead. Hinz gets from the lead too. Jared Thomas follows him in. Rather peculiar pit entry here at the Silverstone circuit as you cut the last couple of corners. They jump around a lot on the timing screen because cars taking pit entry move up and then of course are beholden to the pit lane speed limit and start dropping down again. Really moves the timing column around, but Hinz has decided that's his best bet, is to stop early.
Yeah, well, the theory behind that is he potentially will come out with some clean air. So if the 2 cars that were behind him continue fighting like they were, it just might play to his benefit. But this has allowed Braden Martin, who was sitting back in P4, latch onto the back of Baker and Chastanoff. So there's a bit of a gap back to P number 4 now. So the top 3 making a bit of a break for it, but they're going to have to be pretty smart. So that way they still in contention. Chastanoff running very, very wide there, completely offline out of character, but he manages to pull it back up.
Looking at that race start, seeing Shasti from third on the grid. Amazing launch, a bit more wheel spin than others. Would have kept the engine up in the revs, wouldn't have bogged down, tried to slot the middle, wasn't able to move through. And a little back in the pack, this is where some of the drama happened. You've got Brody Shepherd and Klein Bosink, both of them in very similar looking sort of black and green cars here. One butt kicker, one full send. And what then happens as the field is 3 wide and comes back into the left? Gap closes a bit for the Paddy and the Burger.
Yeah, and then it was really just a case of trying to get out of the racing line with the oncoming traffic, but unfortunately, it looks like he almost drove into a complex of cars trying to make their way through. So still on a VRS replay, and this is Brody Tressida getting at the back end all kind of loose on lap number 2, but obviously no harm, no foul done. He's still able to continue with no damage.
There's the 69 of Tressida in the pack. Now, I imagine what we're going to start to see is sort of 2 schools of thought on the pit stop strategy, either go early or go late. There doesn't seem to be any benefit that I can imagine from going sort of in the middle of the race, lap 5, lap 6. Sean McKenzie pits in, but definitely you sort of got lap 1, lap 2 pitters and sort of lap 8, 9 pitters, and in the middle you're kind of a bit lukewarm.
Yeah, well, that strategy used to be a favourite for a lot of the Ozicar Skip Barber drivers, but of course they were running different compound tyres, whereas the Skip Barbers took quite a while for the tyres to get up to temperature, so it was quite a big undercut if you managed to work and pull it off. But, have a look at in-screen footage here, the difference between first on track and further back in the field. This is Hinz trying to make his way back through past a few drivers for position, so he's back in P10 even though he's taken his pit stop. It's found himself a little bit of clear track at the moment to take advantage of.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad for pole sitter, potentially net race leader. 20 seconds between himself and Ewan Baker at the moment. Baker pulling away a bit from Chastanoff, is pulling away a little bit from Braden Martin, spreading out a little at the front of the race, which is tough to do around this track. It is a very, very high average speed for this sort of car that's able to carry good speed through those sections of corners like Stowe, like Maggots, Beckett's Chapel, Cops, etc.
So Chastanoff handling the change of direction through that Maggots Beckett section really, really well. Looks like he's got the car pretty well planted and the setup's really working for him at the moment. You can see that gap between the leader car number 34 out in front at the moment. He's got a nice little margin just on a second, 1.1 seconds at the moment. So no threat from behind. The cars are just sort of starting to space themselves out a little bit. So Sean Doyle putting on a smoke show for the spectators tonight. Spinning off the racing line and managing to keep going, but of course losing some track position in the process. He's back on screen now. His tyres will be hot, so we'll just have to wait for those to cool down a little bit. Probably a little bit slidey and skatey until he gets things back under control.
Yeah, first flying lap since his pit stop for Doyle, so maybe still warming up the tyres. I dare say that would have done some of it. Another driver for pit entry is Tressida. And he looks to get out of that group of drivers. He found himself marred in. A lot of them had already made their pit stop, and because of his difficulties early on lap 1, and amongst drivers that he really wasn't racing. Here's Klein Bosink. Round the outside of turn 1, no grip there. None whatsoever off the racing line. And that then means that the driver he's in battle with is in the better spot of Scott Harvey, but can't quite take advantage of it.
Yeah, plenty of respect being shown there. Harvey probably a little bit courteous there, giving plenty of racing room to the car number 77 on screen at the moment, but Harvey's still putting a little bit of pressure on as they make their way back through the infield section of this famous circuit. It was once upon a time the back end of the track, but after modifications, I think back in 2014, this now becomes the infield section. Getting a good run down onto the old pit straight at the moment. Is probably out of the draft range of the car in front. Looks like 2 teammates up ahead working together. They might be Aussie car teammates of Thomas and Quist on screen at the moment.
Yeah, Jared Thomas and Luke Quist. Whereas it's Tom Blomqvist, who has pole outright for the Rolex 24 next weekend.
So a couple more cars darting off into the pit lane as we are at end of lap 5 of this 10-lap sprint race. Bit of a battle at the moment. This is Martin and Carradine, one of our new drivers to the Ozicar Formula 4 Series, already mixing it with the top runners tonight, so he'll be one to keep an eye on as the season develops, showing plenty of speed and obviously getting the attention of quite a few drivers in the field tonight.
Yeah, most of the field at the halfway point have made their stop. It's your top 7 who haven't. Most of them from behind that have, like Hinz, Duke, Berg, I think, rejoining the race. Yep, that's why he's dropping down the order a little bit. Hinz with a 6-second lead over Duke. It's really Baker and Chastanoff that Hinz has got to be most worried about, though, and it was 20 seconds. It's still 20 seconds that Hinz is behind race leader Baker.
Yeah, so even though he's got clear track in front of him, he's not necessarily taking any outright speed and time away from those front runners. So everything being fair and even in the world, by the time Baker and Chastanoff dive into the pits, their pit sequence, they pretty well should come out on track for similar gaps to what we see at the moment, where Chastanoff should be that 2-second gap behind Baker, and then Baker should be potentially a second or so behind the man on screen at the moment, Thomas Hinz.
Last lap for Hinz, 2 minutes 1.8. Last lap for Baker, 2 minutes 1.6. So not too greatly different. First day back at school for a lot of the kiddies today. First day back at school for Ozicar as well with this new season of Formula 4. Ewan Baker pits on the lane. This has got to be a good one for him if he's going to come out ahead of Thomas Hinz. One of the locked on cars here loses the rear, and I think that was
Peter Wilkinson. Yeah. Unfortunately, just sits the car sideways across the track. You can see a big sigh of disappointment down in the bottom right-hand corner. I think he has decided to call it a night for race number 1 at least. Unfortunately, just getting a little bit loose there on exit. But man on screen decided to soldier on while Ewan Baker dove into the pit. So Chastanoff is now our leader on track with 2.5 laps to go. So he's going to have to consider his pit stop sequence either the next lap, this one or the next lap, to meet the requirements under racing conditions. But Thomas Hinz, again, still holding that gap. It's down to 18 seconds to the car in front again now. So to the leader, sorry.
Baker's pitted. He's 1 second behind Baker, who's still got the cold tyres. If the stop for Chastanoff is the same, he's going to be a second behind this. So it looks a 3-way fight potentially. And Martin and Carradine with James Chastanoff. I think this looks like the lead battle, though. They've both cleared their stops. Baker just ahead. How hard can he push on cold tyres?
Yeah, it's all about confidence in the car, and it's one thing to get a fast lap on these cars once the tyre temperatures are up to scratch, but to hold that same confidence on cold tyres can be an art in itself. But halfway around this first lap now, I dare say Baker's tyres are probably getting back up to their optimum working temperature. Chastanoff this time round still has Braden Martin in his shadows. We'll have to watch pretty closely to see whether Chastanoff takes this opportunity to dive into the pits. Doesn't look like he does. He's going for another one.
Relatively cool track, all things considered, at 21 Celsius. So Carradine pits, Chastanoff and Martin continue. Gap between Baker and Hinz coming down just a couple of little tenths. There's Banks, Tune, Shannon, a lot of other drivers into pits now as well. Only very, very small number that haven't made their required stop yet in this first of 2 races.
Making their way to complete another lap with the cars on the screen. So 2 flying laps to go after this one for these 2 drivers, as we see their 5th place getter make his way out of the pits. So that was that Karuden, car number 732, the very distinctive red and blue on screen at the moment. Very easy to spot out on track. So currently started fourth. He's down one from where he began when the lights went green. But for his first Aussie car outing, I'm still sure he'd be pretty wrapped with that.
Liam Banks, it must have been lighting up the rear tyres a bit in his battle here amongst Jared Thomas and Kleinbersink. And Luke Quist, the teammates, now separated by a couple of cars. That's Kleinbersink looking to get down the inside at the end of the Wellington straight and then claim the inside for this long right-hander that feeds them onto the old pit straight.
Yeah, really giving the tyres there a chance to work as the constant right-hand radius just seems to go on forever. Got to be very patient before you apply the throttle and an easy application. Otherwise, you can get the back end stepping out on you and then you lose all your momentum through this really important section because it is so fast. This very famous Maggots-Beckett's section they're about to enter, and of course into the back straight. So very, very critical to get that section back early we were speaking about, because if you don't get it right there, it affects you for the next good portion of the track.
Last of the pit callers, James Chastanoff and Braden Martin, are going to enter that pit lane, and you're likely to see these two drivers, Ewan Baker and Thomas Hinz, move up to the lead of the race with 2 to go.
Yeah, Hinz obviously got on the back of Baker again now, so that gap is down to less than half a second at the moment, so definitely within slipstream range. I've got my tongue tied into a knot as we see Chastanoff exit now. He's got Braden Martin tucked underneath his rear wing, but the momentum and the warm tyres is going to belong to the cars in front.
All pit stops up front done. Baker leads from Hinz, Chastanoff, Martin, and Corridon not far behind with those warmer tyres, probably able to sneak up on Chastanoff and Martin and make it a podium battle, but there is just 3 seconds between Hinz and Chastanoff, which means that toe is broken. Here we go on the outlap for Martin. He uses the slipstream to move himself up into third. Corridon just looming in the background as well, getting ever closer as this lap goes on.
Yeah, Martin looked pretty aggressive as he made his way into pit entry, and of course the pit time between Chastanoff and Martin must have been very similar, because on exit Martin had made up those couple of tenths that he was behind through that pit sequence. So taking advantage of that benefit there on their outlap, but of course you can see in the background that car 732 ever looming, and possibly going to run out of opportunities. But if these two battle the way that we've seen them battle in the past, there's never one to ride anyone off.
Baker with the late stop, Hinz with the early stop. Which is the way to go? Corridon pitting 1 lap earlier than the 2 in front of him, and it looks to almost be a 3-way flight potentially there. There's Scott Harvey on the replay. More dramas. That driver. Live, it is all happening as they come towards the white flag of the season opening race for Ozicar F4 Season 2.
Yeah, it's a white flag this time by. We see Hinz back in front in his natural position, as he would like to deem it, I guess. Our pole sitter back in front. VRS replay will show you exactly how that unfolded. Slipstream down the old hanger straight, and Hinz has the inside line. There's not really a lot that Ewan Baker could do about that except for hang it around the outside and duck back in as the change of direction.
For the podium, Martin just in front. Corridon trying to take that fourth. The track flip-flops back in this section, the newest part of the circuit. And as they battle like this, I think Martin thinks he might be able to get away with a podium. Chastity under a lot of pressure down the Wellington straight. Corridon not immediately sure which way to go. A bit of weaving in the 4-way battle behind them as well. Great racing to kick off the season. Just enough space given there as Chastanoff holds it round the outside. Opportunities, though, for Baker to take the lead back on the final lap are starting to dwindle.
Yeah, Baker's got a really good run here underneath Thomas Hinz. He's going to have to make the move through here. We've seen Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton come together there in recent years. If they decided to go side by side, Baker this time thinks better of it. and in doing so has lost a couple of tenths, as he's taken a little bit of pressure off Hinds as he makes his way through Maggots and now the left-right section of Beckett's. Looks like a pretty good run out of here. Got to be careful not to get a run wide on the exit there, because there is a slowdown for the drivers if they get a little bit exorbitant with the track limits. Baker underneath the slipstream, but no, not close enough to make a dive at this stage.
Really tried to maximise his run out of Chapel, really tried to find a way to have a look at Hinsey, and there's only one braking zone left. There are a little bit of track limits out there on the exit of Stowe. Hins knows how you can get him, and I think he's got this one covered off into the final complex of corners. Checkered flag waiting. Hins hoping to start his season 2 how he did so often in season 1 with a race win.
The battle still continues. We've got Martin back in P3, but further back in the field, two teammates still battling here on screen. Even further back in the field, this is Darren Shannon getting in contact with Scott Harvey, I think it is there. All sorts of shenanigans going back further in the field. So not all the focus is on up the front of the action is buried deep in the field as well.
Doyle and Shepherd, why not? 17th and 18th place. Felberg, Tressida, Verney in this next group here. Very, very close packs, as you expect from these F4 cars around the high-speed Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Opening race, let's cap off how they all finished up. Hins, 10th and a half from Baker. Martin on the podium there. Chastanoff and Corridon. Adrian Duke, Julian Kleinbusink, Jared Thomas, Lundqvist, Liam Banks, the top 10.
Yeah, some regular Aussie car names in amongst the top 10 and some newbies as well. Darren Toon in P11 tonight doing a really good job. Sean McKenzie brings home race number 1 in 12th. See Scott Harvey out of 13. Darren Shannon there getting his elbows out towards the last lap in P14. Dennis Hancock, Matthew Harriott, Sean Doyle in 15, 16, 17 respectively. He was followed across the line by Brody Shepherd, with Ira Felberg and Brody Tressida rounding out your top 20. Then we've got Nathan Verney in 21st tonight, 40 seconds off the lead, followed by Leon Williams and Roy Clark, Warren Henry and John Snell. There your top 25. And then you've got Ben Wheeler 1 lap down, Peter Bowling 2 laps off the pace. Peter Wilkinson, I think, parked it after a little misdiscretion there on lap number 7, and I think Ryan Bell actually pulled it into the pits quite early as well and called it a night.
Well, let's have a look then at what the rest of the season is going to look like. Obviously, we're here at Silverstone. We go to Snetterton, Brands Hatch, Donington Park, Alton Park, and Knock Hill. Snetterton's going to be relatively high speed. Brands Hatch potentially likewise, same for Donington, but Knock Hill as a season finale could be very, very interesting.
Yeah, so probably a really, really good way to finish off the season. Lots of blind crests, lots of off-camber corners, but again, still very well suited for these small formula cars. And if there's any of these races I'm really looking forward to, it is going to be the final round, round number 6.
Let's take a little break here on Simspeed TV, because when we come back, it's race number 2. Again, 10 laps, compulsory pit stop, and we'll decide the round winner for round 1 of 6 of this season 2 of Ozicar Formula 4 Series here on Simspeed.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Thanks for sticking with us and welcome back. Just a minute away from gridding for race number 2, the Ozicar Formula 4 Series. Once again brought to you by Locked On iRacing Podcast, Sim Racing Leagues, Prestige Trophy Badge and Engraving, and Chaz Mostert's No Social Hate campaign. One of, I think, the really strong draws of Ozicar has been those great trophies that various of our champions along the journey have been very proud of.
Yeah, that along with the fact there was a couple of drivers from last season that were awarded a real-world drive or an opportunity to jump into Formula V, I think it was, over at Sydney Motorsport Park. So Ira and the Ozicar crew, they're really going far and beyond, giving some drivers some opportunities if they prove themselves to be good, respectful drivers within the series.
Indeed. So momentarily gridding up for race number 2, which is a progressive grid from race number 1. So there are a few drivers that maybe spun out, maybe got hit, went backwards some amount in race number 1 who won't be well pleased with that. Thomas Hines will be grateful to be starting on pole once again. Ewan Baker there alongside him. Braden Martin moved forward, now starts on the second row of the grid. And James Chastanoff, Ali Imran Karudin, Adrian Duke, I think also moving up a little bit, and you'll see through again how they finished race number 1, but they're ready to start race number 2. 10 laps, compulsory tyre change, really great launch from the car in third on the grid once again. Baker going backwards, Martin going forwards, Hins middle of the road looking to defend his pole position once again, and look at Chastity. He goes round the outside of turn number 1 up into third place. Cold tyres for everyone and a little bit of drama behind in turn 2.
Yeah, Chastanoff taking a big dive under brakes there, giving Martin plenty to think about, but Martin holding that position in P number 2 on the exit of the right-hander there. But plenty of, like I said, plenty of action further back in the field. We focus on one of the Ozicar drivers at the moment. This is car number 81, I think it is, on screen. And looks like everybody's making their way through without too much drama. A couple of cars moving around in sequence on our little pit timing monitor on the left-hand side of your screen. Looks like Chastanoff and Baker still in side-by-side battle. So Baker's lost a couple of positions there off the start, and he finds himself under all sorts of pressure with Chastanoff on the inside for this right-hand sweeper.
Around the outside looks like the place to be though, and Kleinbusink just behind them, plus 2 spots in this race so far. The 77 moving around, looking for any real estate, splitting down the middle, 3 wide into Maggots, Beckett's. I think he gets 1 spot out of that potentially. Baker definitely drops back behind Chastanoff, and this will be the view from Banks, I'm guessing. All right, I am right. Liam Banks in the tow. A lot of slipstream in a pack like this down the long Grand Prix straight.
Yeah, it's not very often you are wrong. Baker, big dive under brakes there, giving Chastanoff a close-up view of the front of his car. A couple of drivers opting to take that early pit stop like we saw in race number 1. Baker just getting very, very close to the back of Chastanoff. So it works Looks like the early pit stop may have worked for Thomas Hinds in the race number 1, and a few drivers taking that on board for race number 2.
Really tough race start for number 16, Matthew Harriott. Not going anywhere initially, swamped by the pack, and it doesn't get better about there. I think he might actually wash out a little bit wide and then versus backwards across the circuit into a couple unsuspecting drivers as well. A lot of cars going for that lap 1 pit stop this time around.
Yeah, so Chastanoff was one of those drivers to do just that. We saw in race number 1 he was one of the last cars to pit. In race number 2 he is one of the first cars to pit, so really mixing up his fuel strategy.
Off the track, rejoins, a little bit of a pinch at the next corner. And it's the 111 Luke Quist that gets put into a little spin. So tough for both of those drivers. It started with the lockup for Harvey.
Yeah, Harvey redressing there, but of course, I think it was Quist getting on the radio to race control for them to have a look at it. So, don't know what the outcome of that will be. Obviously, Harvey doing the right thing after making a little bit of a mistake and returning that position, but he was just simply trying to do his best to get back on track without getting it on the green slippery stuff, and as a result, just got pinched at the apex.
Didn't look so bad from on board, if I'm honest. Kleinbersink and Kaiderin, two new drivers to Ozicar F4, and they're going wheel to wheel down towards Stowe. They're going weave to weave in the background as well as drivers jockey for position in the early stage of this race, looking at those drivers who haven't stopped yet and going for the pit lane 77 Kleinbersink sides. I've had enough of this going wheel to wheel when there are guys who have stopped, like Chastanoff, Baker, Jared Thomas, who could be undercutting us with a little bit of clean air.
Yeah, the times in qualifying were very, very close between quite a number of these drivers. So if you haven't got the outright speed to get round somebody and drive away from them, the undercut pit sequence just might be your best opportunity to get yourself a bit of clean air and make the pass.
Oh, the teammates touch. The teammates touch of Mackenzie, and I think it was Quist, but there's a few of them around in the Aussie Car Racing Team livery. So I think that's rule number 1, rule number 2, and rule number 3 of racing broken.
Yeah, again, of course, don't hit your... Well, rule number 1 is beat your teammate. Rule number 2 is don't hit your teammate.
Hello. Yep, that's it. Concertina effect into one of the slower corners.
Look like one of the locked on lads in the background just having to hit the brakes and take evasive action as well. That might have been, I think it was car 282, Nathan Verney. So he had a really good view of it all unfold. We look further back up the field, car number 69 on screen at the moment, Brody Tressida. So he is in sequence at the moment. We've got a bit of a gap to his teammate up in front, but plenty of pressure being applied from behind as well.
Full send by name and by nature for Brody Tressida. Hasn't stopped yet. Started 20th on the grid, now up into 5th. There's a view from the locked-on machine behind of teammates getting into each other. Which way do you go? Which way do you go? Eventually, you pick one. You lose one spot to Scott Harvey, but you gain 2 off of them. Hinds pits from the lead. A couple of others are going to follow his example. I think you could do worse than covering off whatever Thomas Hinds does.
Well, he does have that number 1 car on the front of his nose for a reason, obviously carrying over the championship from last season. So pretty good understanding of what's required to take home a championship. So if you follow him, there's very rarely you'll go wrong.
Braden Martin going longer from 3rd place in race number 1. From 6th on the grid initially. He'll be screen capping this part of the race, I imagine. We'll see if the results will be worthy of the same treatment. Highest running car to stopped, Thomas Hinds, 18.8 seconds away from race leader Braden Martin. the delta looked 19 to 20-ish seconds in race number 1, didn't it? Banks had 20 seconds, pitted, came out still just 1 second in the lead.
Yeah, so that transition through the pits there, going to be pretty critical. It's just a little gap we're going to have to watch as the race unfolds. But we see Chastanoff on screen at the moment. He is tucked underneath the rear wing of car number 23, getting a little bit of a slipstream through the back section down past the old pit sequence. Has a look down the inside, got the car positioned right on track and has the speed to stick it down the inside, and that's another move done and dusted.
Yeah, John Snell hasn't stopped, surrounded by cars that have, who do not want to wait or lose time. Baker slides down the inside and gains a position on him as well. The next, Klein Sink and Jared Thomas are going to look to do similar because they don't want to be losing time in traffic to drivers that haven't stopped yet. From the lead, Braden Martin into the lane. One of the quirks of this circuit, the slower the car, the lower the pit delta is in the lane because you cut out the final corners. The slower the race car goes through those final corners, the quicker it is to take the pit entry in relative terms, because every car takes it at that speed limit of 60. Or it's 80. It is 80. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's 80, yeah.
I feel like it used to be 60. There's a bunch of them they changed on us to get sneaky, like Spa, like others. They bumped up the pit lane speed limit, reduces the delta. Martin is, though, through the lane mighty quickly. He'll owe a box of chocolates to his pit crew. He's just in front of Hinds.
So effectively taking the race lead, he is the first car that has pitted and is back out on track. Thomas Hinds in P number 2. The gap there is less than 1 second, so we saw Hinsey reel that gap in the dying laps of race number 1 to take the win. So he'll have his eyes firmly fixed on the back of the locked-on Formula 4 car out in front. Braden Martin talking down his chances in the lead-up to the new season, but obviously showing he's got some great pace here tonight to mix it with last season's champion.
Corridon still yet to pit top of screen. Martin and Hinds who have bottom of screen. And there is 16 seconds between Martin and Corridon, so it doesn't look like going longer is quite working out just yet, but you just never know what's going to happen to the other drivers, if they're going to start battling, if they're going to catch some traffic that you won't. I think it benefits you to really just do something different from them at this point. He is going to come in and stop. And the other drivers who haven't yet, Brody Shepherd and Brody Tressida.
So Corridon diving in at the end of lap number 5. So he's split race number 2 in half for his pit sequence. Thomas Hinds now right on the back of Braden Martin, having a big look under brakes, plenty of room being given. There's also a battle for position in the background between, I think it is Chastanoff and Baker.
Yeah, and Ira Felberg, who hasn't stopped yet. So Corridon is going to rejoin this race. He's in the pit exit. The other two swooping through turn 1 at full racing speed. Will go ahead of him. Wheel to wheel now with Baker, though, on the outlap. Might just drop in behind. He will have to. And it's for position with these guys behind, though, of Klein Sink and Jared Thomas. They've been through the lane and they're right with this podium battle.
Yeah, so the top two made a bit of a break, but all the action at the moment is on for the final step on the podium. Just have a look at the VRS replay virtual races score, exactly how Thomas Hinds has taken back the lead of the race. Braden Martin giving a very wide berth, hopefully to get the switchback, change of direction through the final double right-hander onto the straight, but unable to get the move done.
No defense offered at all in that one. Not unlike the New Zealand Air Force. Brody Shepherd still out on track. Only him and Ira Felberg haven't enjoyed the new Silverstone pit building in this race number 2. Looking backwards from Shepherd, though, 20 seconds would put him around about the battle between Jared Thomas Julian Kleinbersink and Liam Banks. So he's looking at 7th or 8th, depending on how those others battle, how quickly they can lap and how quickly he can. You're a very low chance of catching any traffic in a 10-lap race around the Grand Prix circuit, though, with lap times over 2 minutes.
So Chastanoff and Baker still going at it. This is pretty much a replica of what we saw just on 2 minutes ago as they made their way through this same section of track. What it has done, though, is it really allowed our 5th place getter in the form of Carradine at there, currently sitting at the back using a little bit of slipstream. Baker's got his nose just on the inside of Chastanoff for turn number 1. Very, very hard to go too wide through there. Chastanoff just doing enough to keep his nose in front for now.
Shepherd blending in just behind this group as well. Oh, he is going to be just behind. It's Jared Thomas who gets ahead of Julian Kleinbersink.
It is elbows out for the final step on the podium. It is a 3-way battle with these 3 cars on screen at the moment. Slipstream taking effect. Everybody
wide. No.
Yeah.
Carradine thought against it. Chastanoff. The outside works very well in the left-hander because it gives you the inside and you look like you want to hug the inside the whole way around. Through sort of the woodcut section.
Carradine looking very racy at the moment, darting left, right. He is filling up the mirrors of Baker as he has a look down the inside. And Chastanoff and Carradine, they're using track limits and then some. And it's worked for Carradine. He's got his nose in front of Baker.
Oh, so tight as they try to squeeze through here. Saw the 2 battling in front of him. Tried to carry speed. Baker way off the line. Is going to be vulnerable to the next group behind as they carry speed through Chapel and onto the Hangar Straight.
Yeah,
that well for Carradine does not work out particularly well for Ewan Baker.
Yeah, Kleinsbenek there in car number 77 doesn't need an invitation or a second look. He has straight away goes on the attack and dives down the inside. So it looks like Baker may have just potentially lost that little battle or lost the gap to that battle in front. So he's found himself in a new defensive situation where he is now gone from the attack to playing man out in front, defending from rear.
3 more laps. Hinds has almost broken a second to Martin, but behind them, what's breaking out is war in the battle for the final step on the podium for the next group here, where Baker up and down, a little bit like a yo-yo amongst this pack. Brodie Shepherd looking for his opportunity. Already 10 spots in this race, 11 if he can outfox Thomas. It's out of space there.
So every one of our drivers out on track has made their pit stop sequence. So as you look at the gap distance on the left-hand side of your screen, that is the true track position. So everybody now fighting for true position on track as looks like the full send car there taking the big dive. Car number 55, Shepherd, having a look down the inside. Just might have the track position and the momentum to get the move done here. Looks like they are still side by side going down past the old pit complex.
I think I favour the inside line for Shepherd, but all of it just sees them dropping away from the group of cars they were amongst and stepping on each other's toes.
So slipstream should take effect here again as they make their way down the old Hangar Straight. I think you said it was is it Grand Prix Straight now?
No, I was using that as an adjective, not a noun.
Okay. So not a change for position, but plenty of pressure being applied from the Aussie car driver rear of the battle on screen at the moment. Very, very hard braking left, double right section here to complete the lap. Easy to ride the curbs, get these Formula open wheelers unsettled as we see that exactly that happen.
Wow, you've only gone and done it to them, but yeah, those big red curbs in the slow corners, very, very dangerous to a tiny little F4 car. You get the same again in the village loop section that these drivers are just approaching. The slower the corner, the taller the curb. It looks like. Quist in the
Inside.
wall from 18th place. Takes a lot to end up in a barrier around here.
It looks like Chastanoff may have just broken Carradine for the short term at the moment. That gap out just over half a second. But look at Baker in the background as well. He's almost latched onto the back of this little group again. So he's made up a little bit of time in the last couple of laps while we've been focusing a bit further back. This is the 111 car of the Aussie car. And bang, hard hit onto the curb.
Those curbs are absolutely no bueno, no good for these cars at all, and it spears him off. What has happened here for Nathan Verney? His right rear tyre also massively askew. That thing's not going to get 2 more laps around. Not in that shape. 1.5 laps to go, really. Hins with a 1.5 second lead from Braden Martin. Then it's closing up amongst Chastanoff, Carradine, Ewan Baker, and Julian Kleinbesink. Looking at another replay, though, for Verney. Oh, just gets clipped, and the suspension is cactus.
This goes to show how vulnerable these Formula cars are from a little bit of contact. So if any of these drivers are used to racing tin tops or sedans or anything like that, and then they jump into these cars, completely different discipline that they have to get their head around, and a completely different driving style. So you just see the smallest of touches, and then that was the end of Quist's race.
Track up to 23 Celsius as the sun makes a rare appearance in Old Blighty. And Carradine lighting up the rear tyres through the slow corners there. I think you put heat and wear into them in the fast corners, but then you need to lean on that mechanical grip in the slow stuff where you don't have the aerodynamics. And from all of these early stoppers, even in a short race like this, it's almost starting to show that they're running out of grip. He's got to park the car on a compromised line to try to shut out Baker on the final lap.
Yeah, Baker looks like somebody stuck a rocket under his rear, or under his seat for this final lap. He looks like he's pretty keen to get the move done. He's had a couple of looks down the inside into this sequence of corners throughout the course of both these races. In this case, managing to get it done, and as the change of direction does pull it up, looks like the 732 car there in the background using every little bit of inch to get underneath his rear wing. But Baker, they're getting the move done, moving up to P4, but he's probably just a little bit far back at the moment to progress any further, unless the commentator's curse kicks in and something happens to the top 3.
Half a lap, and there's easily 5 battles out on circuit yet to be decided on their way to the checkered flag. This group here, you've also got Tressida, Harvey Hancock, Darren Toon further back. You got Ira Felberg mixed amongst it, John Snell and Peter Wilkinson having some dramas and about having a battle. I think that's Nathan Verney there still trying to limp his way around. So something for everyone in Ozicar F4. Thomas Hins looking to clean sweep Silverstone in the opening round. I think Kleinbesink has got to run there. It's the final lap. You've got to give it a go and a look into Stowe. But he does not appear to be close enough to do it there, and just one braking zone left. Hins is going to get the checkered flag. He's going to clean sweep Silverstone. It's the return of Hins sanity.
The emotion overflowing from Thomas Hins there as he celebrates as he crosses the line. That's probably as good as you're going to get from Thomas. A little wiggle of the finger, a bit of a smirk, and he knows he's done everything he needed to do to start his Aussie Car Formula 4 Season 2 campaign. 2 wins from 2 starts. So
dramas for Brodie Tressida in the final complex of corners. His suspension is broke. His one-wheel drive, if you can even let that thing to the wheel, Harvey isn't going to see the checkered flag either. What has gone on in the back of the field in the final corners? We're going to have a look. I told you there was battles everywhere and for everyone in our 29-car field on the final lap. Before we get to the finishing order, we'll have a look at what happened here. Tressida in the 69, Harvey in the car around the outside. He wants a gap. Is there a gap? The two of them collide. Then comes the Aussie car. Then comes the green machine of... I can't read the number with the reflection. Darren Toon. Harvey clearly with damage. He's trying to get that thing to the line, but that amount of toe in, toe out, whatever it is, says no way. And what is he? 50 meters from the line, T-bones the Armco.
Yeah, very hard, very messy hit there. A lot of drivers just really coming unstuck right at the death knock, but Tune there doing a great job after that contact to finish across the line on 3 wheels, Lewis Hamilton style. But our race winner for race 1 and race 2 on screen at the moment, Thomas Hinz. We did mention he had that number 1 on the front of his car for a reason, and he has kicked off season number 2 in the finest fashion available.
Brum, brum, brum goes Thomas Hinz. He doesn't need those tyres anymore. He's used 4 sets across 2 races. And in the end, 2.4 seconds his winning margin in the second race. Braden Martin twice on the podium. James Chastanoff third from Ewan Baker. A very, very strong Aussie car debut from a couple of these drivers like Baker, like Carradine, like Kleinbusink. And then Brody Shecky, Jared Thomas, Liam Banks, Dennis Hancock, the top 10.
We scroll over the page, Ben Wheeler there, 23 seconds off the lead. He was followed across the line in that green machine of Darren Tune. Adrian Duke, Ira Felberg picking up a couple of positions there towards the end as well. Warren Henry, Sean Doyle, Sean McKenzie in 15, 16, 17. That leaves Leon Williams in P18. John Snell did well across the line in P19. And after a DNF in race number 1, Peter Wilkinson does round out your top 20. Flicking over the page, Roy Clark there in P21, followed by teammate Darren Shannon. Brody Tressida, the first of our cars, 1 lap down. He was in company with Scott Harvey, Nathan Verney, and then a couple of laps off the pace we have Peter Bowling, Luke Quist we saw with a DNF, Matthew Harriott, of course, not finishing, and Ryan Bell unable to take the start.
Well, our race winner, standing by with us. You'd think Christmas and New Year's never happened. You've kicked off exactly how you finished off season 1.
Yeah, hey, Hainsey. Yeah, that was really good. Obviously, I came in just to if I can just get a good start, have a couple of decent results, that'd be nice. And went perfectly, and I managed to even pip the pole just by a thousandth on you, and it was so close. And then just first race, I kind of figured I thought I might try and pit early just to not give the guys behind a draft, so that maybe that will help me stay ahead. And obviously didn't quite work. Ewan managed to jump me, but managed to get him back at the end there and hold him off in the last lap. And then second race, clean start. They all were sort of battling a bit. I saw in the first lap, so they dropped a bit behind on that first lap, and saw they pitted and thought I probably had enough time to stay out for a couple of laps and sort of go along. And obviously Braden got ahead again. But got that move done, and then just was putting in consistent laps, was able to get away. So perfect pole, double win. Can't ask much more.
Race 1, the Baker by name versus the Baker by nature. There's a couple new names and faces this season that definitely look like they can challenge well inside of that top 10.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's good to see there's some new ones. It's good to see, obviously a lot of the regulars from last season are back again, which is it's great to see, that kind of regular attendance and regular participation, people still showing up. Always built a strong community and stuff in these leagues when you get people, and you get to obviously you get to know who you're racing a lot better, so you can race a lot harder, and it makes it just a lot more entertaining. I feel like it's a lot more fun. But it's good to see obviously Chastity back, and good to see you in there and Ali and a few guys, Braden. Hopefully will be doing the season, I assume. So it's good to see some new faces rocking up and keeping the challenge really high.
No Cam Dance, I heard he's scared of you.
He really shouldn't be. If anything, the other way around, I'm more scared of him because he's, as I've said before, I have huge respect for him, and he's one of the most talented guys on the service. So I feel like it'd be the other way, if anything, in terms of that kind of on track speed. So yeah.
Well, British tour this season, a couple more English and a Scottish track coming up. That might be Ewan Baker's home circuit.
Yeah. Well, I need to remember where is it put the fixture there. It's there it is. Season 2, right? Yeah. I was when I saw the tracks, I was actually a bit apprehensive about this track, honestly, being the full layout. I was kind of like, oh god, full layout, it's going to be massive draft fest. But if anything, the draft in these cars is really nice. Like, I really like drafting these things because it's powerful enough. I don't know if they feel like maybe it's a bit less than last season. I don't know if they did anything to that, but at least in that race, it looks like it's, you know, it's strong enough that if you're similar pace, you'll keep with them and you'll have a chance to pass. But it's not so massively huge that you can be way slower and you can still keep up. Kind of like the 86 is. The 86 obviously is lower power, less downforce, so it makes sense. But that's probably the one thing I like about the 86 is it's just so powerful that you can be quite a lot slower and you just sit in the draft and still be there. So it's cool to see that the draft's there and it definitely helps, but you still need to have the pace to make moves, and you can, if you're, you know, really knuckle down, you can actually have a chance to possibly break it as well. So yeah, it's cool, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see it. Obviously, it's yeah, there we go, Snetterton, yeah, Donington, you know, Brands, Alton, all next three, apart probably Snetterton's going to be pretty draft heavy being Snetterton, but the rest of them are all much smaller, so tighter tracks generally. So yeah, it's not kill will be fun as the last round, so that's going to be interesting, but pretty keen for that one.
Hinsey, congrats. Good luck. Catch you at Snetterton.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
As we wrestle the microphone away from Thomas Hinds, you'd think he likes the sound of his own voice, don't you? But well deserved there, taking a comprehensive double win there for round number one. So he's done the hard yards. He can talk for as long as he likes. But we do welcome to the commentary box our second place getter for race number 2 tonight. He ended up with a double podium, a second after starting third and getting a third in heat number 1. Welcome all the way from Adelaide, South Australia, Braden Martin.
How you going, boys?
Doing very well, but the competition tonight has been outstanding. The driving level tonight has been brilliant for round number 1. You guys do all the hard work to make us look good, so congratulations on a very strong round number 1 to kick-start the season.
Yeah, it was really good. I was just saying to a couple of the guys, it felt like about 8 seasons before I got a chance to come up and talk to you guys in the commentary box from the Ozicar Skippy series. So to do it, get 2 podiums in my first time in this car is pretty cool.
So I did make comment during the broadcast, you were down talking your chances in the lead up to round number 1, but obviously you hit the ground running and proven to be a force to be reckoned with, mixing it with some of the Ozicar Formula 4 success from previous years. So we'll take that as good speed, and we look forward to similar results moving forward for the remaining 5 rounds.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think I had a little bit of luck with timing pit stops right, and yeah, catching people at the right time, and yeah, having some people battle. But yeah, it all seemed to work out pretty well in the end. So fingers crossed we can keep it going somehow. So did you have a pit strategy going in, or was it pretty well made up depending on where you were track position wise as the race unfolded? Yeah, well, first one was pretty much I wanted to stay out as long as possible in the first race, just because I know from previous series you don't really want to pit in the middle because you get the cold tires and you kind of have to warm them up for longer. So trying to stay out as long as possible, and being towards the front, I didn't want to be stuck in traffic. But after seeing Hinsey do it pretty successfully in the first race, it kind of made me think a little bit. So second race was kind of going to follow Hins if he went in first lap, but he didn't, so stayed out and just tried to stay in his draft. And then when he pitted, I kind of thought if I can do a good in lap and he doesn't have a great out lap, then maybe I might be able to jump him through the pits if I come in the lap straight after, and seemed to work. But yeah, he was too fast. So great result nonetheless, 2 podiums to kickstart your campaign for season number 2. I'll throw over the microphone. You can thank teammates and sponsors and get their name out there to all our Simspeed viewers. Yeah, just a shout out to all the Locked On lads. And yeah, if you get a chance, go back and listen to some of the Locked On iRacing podcasts. You might get a chance to listen to some wonderful interviews like those of David Haynes and Jay Kennedy. And then we're just preparing for the Bathurst 12 hour coming up, and got a couple of charities that we're supporting, Livin and also Cure Cancer. And there's been a few people pretty badly affected by the second one recently in the team. So it'd be nice if people could jump in the Discord and get a bit of a donation to our charities that we're trying to support.
Yeah, of course, Locked On. There are plenty of iRacing teams out there doing good causes, and if you get an opportunity to get behind the Locked On lads, jump in their Discord and support their cause. So, well done tonight, Braden. I'll let you go. We will throw over to our third place getter tonight, because I'm pretty sure he's keen to go and get another race under his belt shortly. We'll drag James Chaston off into the commentary box, and he is with David Haynes.
Chastity, 4th and a 3rd.
Yeah, not too bad for first round back. Haven't driven the car since the last round, so yeah, pretty good to get a good result.
Doesn't feel much different, does it?
No, exactly the same. It's a typical Aussie car. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, so that's alright, I'm right at home.
I'm going to steadfastly refuse to have any pity for you, so fish elsewhere, but it does look like it's going to be a pretty damn competitive season again inside of the top 10. You know, likes of yourself, Hins, Brody Shepherd, Liam Banks are back, and a couple new names as well.
Yeah, the new guys especially, big hats off to them. There's Ali and Ewan and Julian as well. Really good races straight off the bat. I know started the first season, it was a bit tricky trying to find our feet, so to jump straight into a now seasoned sort of group and then be not only fast but really good races as well and clean, and yeah, it's really good to see.
Pretty powerful slipstream on a pretty powerful slipstreaming track. There was a lot of, I think, sort of racecraft versus race pace going on today.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those tracks where the slipstream sort of is a little bit exaggerated more than normal, but that's kind of usual with these cars. Anyway, quite similar to the Skippy, probably not quite as much, but yeah, it keeps the packs together, but also allows other packs to sort of break away. So yeah, it makes it very strategic. But yeah, no, tonight was just about sort of finding my feet again and getting stuck in and sort of testing some of the new guys and seeing how they were, and yeah. That was some really good fun racing tonight.
A lot of strategy to be had with a compulsory pit stop in every race. Do you think what you do in future races might change based on how things worked out today?
Yeah, well, I guess I've already gone for the late one and the really early one. So I think at some point it may get a little bit to the point where everyone's sort of doing the exact same thing. It's really hard to tell when the best time to pit is. I know Braden did a really good job to pit just that one lap later than Hinsey and get that one really good lap on the warmed up tyres against his cold ones, and then got the overlap done on him. So, sorry, the overcut done on him. So, yeah, I don't really know what the answer is at the moment based on that, and I've tried both of them, and yeah, both of them haven't really worked out for me, so I don't really know which way to go, but yeah, just mix it up until something works, I think, and then we'll probably just stick to it.
We'll hope you do work it out before we see you at Snetterton. Anyone you need to thank?
Yeah, just thank the Locked On crew who I'm racing with, despite the livery at the moment. But also the Banter boys as well, who, yeah, I haven't actually seen talk to them yet, but yeah, I'm sure they did alright. Some of the races they usually pop up doing pretty well. I think Roy's internet held together too, Roy Clark, so yeah, it's a good result from them too. So yeah, thanks to all those guys.
Awesome, catch you around.
Yeah, cheers, thanks guys. Yeah, have a good one and see you next time.
So round one complete in the bag, David, and we look forward to round number 2 already. It should be next week, Monday the 30th of January. We are at Snetterton doing the 300 track. So that should be something different. The 200 normally gets a bit of a Guernsey, but the 300 will be very well suited for these open wheel Formula 4 cars.
Yeah, look forward to it, and look forward to the bizarre and unique shrubberies of Snetterton and its slightly tighter, slightly narrower confines. You'll see it here on Simspeed TV. Congratulations, of course, go to double race winner Thomas Hins. Inspirational stuff from him tonight. We'll see you on Simspeed in not too long for round 2.